This film has been produced in order to show some of the techniques involved in planning a passage and in plotting it on a chart. What you'll see is not intended as a substitute for the NMCS manuals, but to supplement them and to enlarge your coursework so far. It's an idealized scenario, and because this is an exercise solely in navigation, there are some artificialities within the film. We have good weather and a steady beam wind, so our speed through the water is known precisely and will remain unchanged. We've taken no account of other vessels in these busy waters, and a traffic separation scheme does not dictate our heading. We make no apology for this, because in the time available, we need to concentrate on the basics of passage planning without the many external influences which will certainly be encountered at sea. The film will use the same chart and sources of information already provided with your course, Chart 5055 and the NMCS Practice Navigation Tables. While you're watching, you may like to have them to hand, together with your plotter or parallel rule, compasses and dividers, pencil and rubber. It's Tuesday, the 25th of August, and our boat, Avalon, is at Rye, from where we intend to cross the channel to Étaples in France. Avalon is a 10-meter sloop with a draft of 1.6 meters and is capable of 6.2 knots in a beam wind. She has a small but dependable auxiliary diesel engine and makes 3 knots under power. She usually makes about 6 degrees of leeway in winds within 45 degrees of her beam. The weather forecast for tomorrow is good, with a southwest wind force 3 to 4, possibly 5 in the afternoon, then backing southerly 3 to 4. Visibility is expected to be excellent. Here is Rye, our port of departure. And here is Étaples, our destination. The end of the Rye Channel is marked by Rye Bay Buoy, and we can draw a line joining the position of the buoy to the entrance to the channel of the River Conche. This is the direct ground track, which will present no obstacles to our course, but you'll see that it takes us across Bullock Bank. Bullock Bank can become uncomfortable in a southwest wind, where steep seas can build up over shallower water, so a short detour north of it would be sensible, especially as the wind is expected to increase temporarily as the passage progresses. So that we can plan our passage effectively, we'll establish some route markers. We shall obviously need one near the start and another one near our destination. A couple in between ought to be enough. These route markers are called waypoints. How many to use will be your choice in practice, but too many may be confusing. Why should we start? The Macmillan Nautical Almanac, extracts of which are on PNT page 44, suggests Rye Fairway Safe Water Buoy at 50 degrees 54 minutes north, 00 degrees 48.13 minutes east. So we'll plot that as waypoint number 1, which we can abbreviate to WP1. In its remarks about Le Touquet, which you'll find on PNT page 47, Macmillan establishes another useful waypoint at 50 degrees 35 minutes north, 01 degrees 31.8 minutes east, near the entrance to the Marque Channel leading into the River Conche, and thence to Etaples. We can plot this as waypoint 4. And in between waypoints 1 and 4, we will need to alter course north of Bullock Bank, so we can establish waypoint 2 as 000 degrees, Bullock Bank North, Cardinal Buoy, 1 mile. There is nothing particularly significant in the choice of this waypoint position. 000 degrees is an easy bearing to plot, and 1 mile is a simple distance to measure. The simpler we can make the plotting, the less chance there will be of making a mistake. If you'd like to check it, the latitude and longitude of waypoint 2 is 50 degrees, 48 minutes north, 01 degrees, 07.8 minutes east. From waypoint 2 to waypoint 4 is going to be a straight line course. So the purpose of waypoint 3 is to chart a position roughly midway between Ryden Southeast Buoy and Vogoya North Buoy, just to check that we are still on our track. The longitude of 01 degrees 20 minutes east provides an easy plotting reference, and we can establish waypoint 3 along this meridian in latitude 50 degrees 41.35 minutes north. That's our waypoints nicely in place. Now we'll record them in the navigation notebook for safekeeping and for quick reference whilst on passage. We now need to decide in which time zone we're going to plan our passage. Either GMT, UT, or BST will do. In this plan, we shall use GMT, UT, that is to say, Greenwich Mean Time or Universal Time. Safe passage planning requires careful and thorough reading of the various published pilot books and guides, so that we have as much information as possible. PNT contains information about Rye from the Admiralty Sailing Directions, the Cruising Association Handbook, and from Macmillan. Let's look at our departure from the Admiralty Jetty. Macmillan reports sufficient water from 2 hours before high water until 3 hours after high water, but warns of strong flood streams from 3 hours before high water until 1 hour before high water. The flood stream is often in excess of Avalon's motoring speed, so it will be necessary to wait until it's slackened completely. Our best time to leave will be between high water and high water plus 3 hours. Sailing out of harbour is not practicable, so we'll plan to motor to waypoint 1 on the ground track suggested by Macmillan, which is 150 degrees true. Now for our entry into Etaples. From PNT page 48, you'll see that Etaples is accessible from 2 hours before high water until 2 hours after. The Admiralty Sailing Directions, the Cruising Association Handbook, and Macmillan all agree that the best time to enter the River Conche is at 1 hour before high water and in daylight. There is not much water at Etaples. We shall see later that we are much nearer neap tides than to springs, so we must aim to enter the river 1 hour before high water and berth at the marina as near high water as possible. Let's look at the tidal information. Rye is a secondary port of Dover. While Etaples is a secondary port of Dieppe. The first thing to check in the tide tables is the time zone in use. Dover predictions are given in GMT, UT, so these may now be extracted for the 25th of August. Dieppe predictions are in the time zone -1. This means that we must subtract 1 hour to arrive at GMT, or, put another way, the time zone is 1 hour ahead of GMT. Make a careful mental note of this. We can now write down the standard port tidal predictions. The ranges were compared with the mean range boxes on the graphical sheets printed next to the tidal prediction pages, so that we can decide whether we are at Springs or at Neeps, or somewhere in between. Morning high water Dover